Okay, now into solving rational equations. You're going to determine what's excluded. And remember, we just learned from graphing that the denominator can't equal to 0, so that's where the exclusions come from. We're going to find a common denominator so we can clear the fractions, and then we're going to solve what we have left over. So I see on this I have an x and an x squared and an x squared. Well, all those set equal to 0 are 0, so this says x can be everything but 0. And my common denominator is what I can multiply to clear everything, and it's, in this case, the highest power, so it would be x squared. So what we do with that is I am going to multiply everything in this equation by x squared. For this one, I'm going to show you the long way, and then I use kind of a shortcut so I don't have to write as much. So I'm going to do x squared times 4 over x minus x squared times 1 over x squared equals x squared times 3 over x squared. So here when I'm multiplying, remember I can cross reduce. I've got 1x here, so I can get rid of 1x there, so this leaves me 4x. Minus the x squares both cancel out, so 1. Both x squares cancel out, so it's 3. So now solve what's left over. I'm going to add the 1. 4x equals 4. Divide by 4. X equals 1. I double check that that's not the value from the exclusions, so there's my solution. Okay, so this one is a little bit more complicated. So what we're going to do is we're going to think about the trinomial right here, and it factors into x minus 10, x minus 2. You can multiply x minus 10 and x minus 2 together and get it also. So remember, my exclusions come from those denominators, so it can't equal to 10 and it can't equal to 2. My common denominator is that x minus 10, x minus 2, and we just need to remember that is also x squared minus 12x plus 20. Now what we're going to do is we're going to multiply each of these three fractions by that common denominator. And so when I do that and I think about distributing that, so I have x minus 10 and x minus 2. When I look at that first one, it's got an x minus 10, so I'm going to get rid of that x minus 10. And so that's going to leave me with 2 times x minus 2. Bring that minus down, and that 3. And so this one, I see that it's got an x minus 2. That leaves me the x minus 10. So I put x minus 10. And then the x squared minus 12x is that entire thing, so that is just 6. So now remember we have to distribute. So now I get 2x minus 4 minus 3x plus 30 equals 6. It's a linear equation, so I'm going to combine like terms. 2x and negative 3x is negative 1x. Negative 4 and 30 is positive 26. That equals to 6. I'm going to subtract that 26 and get negative 20. Divide by negative 1 and get positive 20. That is not either one of my excluded values, so that's a good solution. Okay, so I have only one fraction, so there's only one denominator. And when I set that equal to 0, it's 0, so I can't be 0. And so my common denominator is just x. I'm going to multiply everything inside by x. So here it excludes the x, so I'm left with x plus 4. And then x times x is x squared. And then 6 times x is 6x. I have a quadratic, so I need to put it into standard form. Subtract that 6x to put everything on one side, which is standard form. Here this factors. I can use my quadratic formula, however you want to do it. So this is x minus 4, x minus 1. Set each of these factors equal to 0. X equals 4, x equals 1. Neither one of those are the excluded values, so those are my two solutions. Okay, so my excluded values come from the denominator. 2x equals 0, so x cannot equal 0. X plus 1 equals 0, so x cannot equal negative 1. My common denominator is both of those, so 2x times x plus 1. And usually when I have a whole number somewhere, I'm going to multiply it together because I'm going to use that 2x squared plus 2x when I clear the fractions. So now I'm going to multiply everything by that common denominator, which is 2x and x plus 1. So when I take a look at the first one, I see that the two x's cancel out, and that leaves me the x plus 1. So now I have 3 times x plus 1, then minus, and then I see on this one that the x plus 1 leaves me the 2x. So now I do the 2x that was on the top times the 2x that is left when I cleared it. And this equals to negative 2 times the whole denominator, and I'm going to use the multiplied form. So now we just have to solve. I'm going to distribute that 3 and get 3x plus 3. And then negative 2x times 2x is negative 4x squared. Distribute on this side and get negative 4x squared minus 4x. I see I have a quadratic, so I'm going to go ahead and add the 4x squared. And look, it cancels out on both sides. So I'm left with 3x plus 3 equals negative 4x. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract that 3x, since the x was over on that side. 3 is equal to negative 7x. Divide by that negative 7, so x equals negative 3/7. That is not either one of my excluded values, so there's my solution. Okay, so I have two different denominators because I can see that third one is the result of multiplying those together. So x equals 0, so x cannot equal 0. X plus 2 equals 0, so x cannot equal negative 2. My common denominator is x and x plus 2. I don't have a whole number, so I know that'll eliminate what's underneath the 6. So now we're going to multiply everything by that common denominator and think about what cancels out. On the first one, the x's cancel out, and that leaves me the x plus 2. So I am going to do the x minus 1 that was there times the x plus 2, and then plus, and that's a whole number 3. And then I go and I see on this one the x plus 2's are gone. So that leaves me the x. And then plus 6, everything is gone. And there's my equation. Now this I have to FOIL, so I can come and FOIL it. I can go and do it, but x times x is x squared. X times 2 is 2x. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2, plus 3x plus 6. I have a quadratic, so I'm going to start with that x squared. And now I'm going to combine like terms. So 2x minus x is 1x, plus 3x is 4x. Negative 2 plus 6 is positive 4. And there I am in standard form. This factors. The factors of 4 that add to 4 are 2 and 2, so that means it's 2 of the same thing. That's x plus 2, so x equals 2, which is negative 2, which is the excluded value. So we cross it out, and this is no solution. So that is where we have to be careful with our excluded values. Okay, I have three different denominators. X equals 0, so x cannot equal 0. X minus 1 equals 0, so x cannot equal 1. The 4 is something to solve, so that doesn't give me an excluded value. So I have a 4 and an x minus 1. So I'm going to multiply everything by 4x and x minus 1. So this first one, the x is gone, and that leaves me the 4 times x minus 1. So I'm going to do 6 times 4 is 24, x minus 1, and then minus, and now this one gets rid of the x minus 1, so that's going to give me the 4x. So I'm going to do negative 9 times 4x. And then on the last, the only thing that's gone is the 4. And it's times 1, so that doesn't do anything. So that's going to be x squared minus x. Went ahead and multiplied those together. So 24x minus 24 minus 36x equals x squared minus x. Over here, this is negative 12x minus 24 equals x squared minus x. I'm going to put this in standard form, and I'm going to move everything that way. So x squared, I'm going to add 12x, so that's going to give me 11x. And I'm going to add 24, so positive 24. Now I can go and factor this. Factors of 24 that give me 11 are 8 and 3. So x plus 8, x plus 3. Solve those, and I get x equals negative 8, x equals negative 3. Neither one of those are the excluded values, so they're both correct. Okay, last example. I've got 3 different denominators, but when I look at the quadratic, that factors into x minus 3, x plus 1. So that is my common denominators. So the excluded values come from x plus 1 equals 0, so x cannot equal to negative 1. X minus 3 equals 0, so x cannot equal to positive 3. My common denominator is x plus 1, x minus 3. Going to multiply that x plus 1 times x minus 3 towards everything. So the first fraction, the x plus 1s, leaves me the x minus 3. So I do 5 times x minus 3 equals that fraction with the 6 on top, everything goes away, so I'm just left with 6. And then plus, and then that's a 1. And on this one, the x minus 3s cancel each other out, so that leaves me x plus 1. Oops. Which there's a 1 in front. So distribute and get 5x minus 15 equals 6 plus x plus 1, which this becomes x plus 7. I'm going to subtract that x and get 4x. I'm going to add that 15 and get 21. So x equals 21 over 4. 22 over 4. Sorry about that. Which reduces to 11 over 2. That is not any one of my excluded values, so that is a good solution.